Alright guys, we're gonna kick back here with Papa for a little bit. He likes to smoke my last macanudo inspirado. The one in the bowl was very soft, this was very hard. So the humidor is not humid. Alright. Oh, there it goes again, biting. So I went to the boat and I picked up I took the tank and I realized I didn't bring to paint the elbow that goes to the tank. So I brought it back because I wasn't gonna put it together. I went with my wife and my dog, and we just took a walk on the beach. Went down to Newport. Look at those beautiful yachts down there. So I didn't go to work. I just went to take and pick up. So I brought the elbow here, already scraped it, ran it through the brush on the bench, and then I painted it. So it's ready to go, and I'm thinking of going tomorrow or maybe Wednesday. So then I also want to paint the engine, the front of the engine and the rear of the engine. I already painted the valve covers. They look good. The front of the engine with the tank, the heat exchanger, since it's sitting, the brackets are kind of, I need to scrape that and give it a couple of coats. So I'm gonna take some paint when I go and spend a day there, probably two, and get that done. And then when it's all put together, run it and see what happens. I was watching on, I think it was called Apple TV, I think it is. There's a few series and movies and stuff, and I started watching the one about Benjamin Franklin. And they don't mention, I was hoping that they would mention the fact that the Cuban women contributed money and jewels to the revolutionary cause against the British. And they didn't mention that. They didn't mention that the Spanish also helped, not only the French. And one thing they did mention that I didn't know is that Ben Franklin's son was against a republic. He wanted to continue under the crown, under the king. So the son was in jail as a traitor, and Franklin didn't want to talk to him about nothing. He didn't want to, make peace or anything. And at the end, the grandson said, "You made peace with the British, after the war. How come you can't make peace with your son?" And he says something that is very true. He says, "You cannot make peace with the heart," meaning that the way the son felt, it wasn't the way that the father felt. Because you can make peace with an enemy. The enemy is the enemy. But if you have somebody in your ranks, in your family, or on your side that's a traitor to your country, then it's worse than to have the enemy. Because the enemy is somebody that's going against you, and that's why you're at war. But once the war is over, you have a treaty, you make peace, they surrender or you surrender, whatever the cause may be. Then you make peace, you sign a treaty, and it's done. But you cannot live or speak to somebody that was treasonous towards you, being against you, as being part of the family. Even if he's not part of the family, they say he's a countryman and he's a traitor. Well, you don't make peace with a traitor, because a traitor once is a traitor twice. That's why nobody liked Benedict Arnold, because he was first for the revolution, and then he turned when he saw that the revolutionaries were losing. He says, I'm going to go with the winning side. He went to the British. Well, that's chicken shit. Another thing I found out that I didn't really like was, as when they were making a treaty with the English, they didn't include the French. And the French invested, along with the Spanish and the Cubans, invested a lot of money to help them. And the French wanted to get paid for what they did. They got a little bit of money back through the money that was given as a gift from the Cuban ladies. That wasn't a loan, but the French were not giving money. They were giving you a loan to fight the British, ships and money, supplies. So Franklin kind of went behind the scenes and started doing business, doing a treaty with the British. The French wanted to recoup some of their colonies that they lost to the British, and that's the reason that they were helping the Americans. At the same time, they also sent another thing I did know, they sent a messenger to England so they can do a treaty with the English. So the French were also trying to do something behind the Americans' back. So it's kind of like, you're going to stop me, I'm going to stop you, and who's going to stop first? That's the way I see it. Franklin did it first. He made the treaty, and they were arguing about, who's going to get what, and, so they gave the Newfoundland to the Americans. And another thing I did know, that the Americans were asking for Canada, the whole country of Canada. I didn't know that. They got a little bit greedy. So finally they circled the eastern seaboard from Newfoundland down to Georgia, and then Florida belonged to Spain. They didn't touch that. They got that later. I don't remember what year. They kind of annexed Florida to the eastern states, to the 13 colonies. So the treaty was that they could travel up and down the Mississippi. So the border was the Mississippi River to the Atlantic Ocean, up to Newfoundland, and they had the rights. They were going back and forth on the fisheries of the cod fisheries, because the cod was very valuable back then. I don't know now, but there was a lot of cod in that area up in Newfoundland, and they were fighting for the fishing rights. So I think that the final deal was that they could keep the Newfoundland area as long as the American can fish the Newfoundland area. That's what I gathered from the whole thing. And I didn't know something else, that Franklin stayed in France for 20 years. That's a long time. The guy the names Vertignon, you know, those French names are kind of hard to pronounce. He was a private investor. The king gave some money, I think, but the guy that put the heavy money, we're talking millions, was that guy, Monsieur Vertignon, something like that. That's where Franklin stayed all that time in a villa. They had like a second house in their French mansion, and he was living there, arranging and talking and meeting with people and doing socializing with the rich. And the French were really into themselves. They were into partying and gambling, that kind of thing. A very excessive lifestyle. They weren't really thinking about helping or anything. The only guy that really stepped up was Lafayette. And he fought and he became a general. And he was in the war. He was really passionate about liberty. Um, and then I also heard a while back that there was a certain percentage of Americans that didn't want to fight the British. Uh, they just didn't want to get involved in the war. And once the Americans won the Revolutionary War, they got expelled. They got deported. Said, okay, go back to England. Because back then everybody was English. They really weren't Americans, unless you were born here. But most of these people, they were colonials, and they will come and establish themselves, and have a little farm or have a store, some sort of a business and stuff. And the people that didn't want to participate in the war or contribute in any way, they got kicked out, which I think is the right thing to do. Because again, they're considered to be traitors. You don't want them around. They're going to make trouble in the future. So it was a mini series. I was watching 2 episodes per night, and I think it took me a little bit, 5, 6 days. I think it was. This is a short mini series, but I found out some things that I didn't know. So I'm kind of filling in the gap on my history, because I'm a history buff, and I start digging for things, and a lot of people don't care. Like my brother-in-law, he just doesn't have 2 peas in his brains. Some people just don't care. They want to live the day. They don't want to live the past. I understand that. But if you don't learn the past, you're going to commit the same errors in the future. You got to learn about the past so you don't have the same problems in the future. One thing that I understand why Jose Marti, the Cuban, let's say, the Cuban George Washington, he made a comment once that the Americans back in the War of Independence, they won. I think it was 1910. Don't quote me. Around there, they were fighting. They were fighting already the Spanish for 10 years. The revolution in Cuba was 10 years against the Spanish, and the Americans got involved, and they wanted to get involved in the negotiations. And Jose Marti made a comment that back then I didn't understand it, but now I do. He says, "No, you don't want to deal with those people." Apparently, he knew what Franklin did, and he says, "No, not going to do it here," because there's a lot of stuff that goes on today that is showing the same inkling to do. I mean, look what happened in Afghanistan. They went in, well, let's say we, because I'm an American too. We went in to help the Afghans, fought the ISIS and fought the Taliban, and and all these people. And then all of a sudden, they pull out. We pull out. Biden pulled out without really even picking up the gear, military equipment. Just left it there. And some general, some bullshit general said, "Oh, it's more expensive to pick it up and bring it back." No, it's not. The reason they left it is because they're hoping for another war. So they gave them the equipment to start one. Night vision, the best machine guns, military troop carriers, and choppers and stuff. It's incredible. So they pulled away. The same thing happened when George Bush was in power. They were helping the Northern Alliance, the northern part of Iraq. They were fighting Hussein, and they helped a little bit and they pulled out. They never complete the deal. They always pull out. It's always about they're coming out ahead. They don't care about the people that are sacrificing and putting their lives on the line. And that's why a lot of people hate the Americans, because it's all business. There's no loyalty. Let's say we're going to help these people until the end. Da da da. No, we're going to help them as long as we make money. If we start losing money, we're pulling out. And now I understand what Jose Marti said, that he didn't want to deal with them because it's about their interest, not about helping anybody. So history teaches you. That's why you got to study history, so you can understand the things that are happening now. Look what happened before. The same ideals, the same mentality, that they come in with a good purpose and then they leave when it's not feasible, it's not good for business. I don't know. And they blow money because we're paying in taxes. They blow money left and right, and they don't care. Leave the equipment there. It's billions of dollars. We'll buy some more with our money. That's why we're in debt. Now, Russia and the Middle East. China's on the border right there, getting ready to jump Taiwan, and here we go again. You got to study history and look at the past so you can see what's coming in the future. And also, you have to understand and you have to believe the threats. When Putin said that he's going to start using, if the Americans don't pull back, he's going to start using nuclear weapons. I don't know if he's talking about the big nuclear missiles, but he probably has some smaller stuff that you can use in cannons or small rockets. And these people don't believe it. They go, nah, he's not going to do that. Really? There was a military expert, not a military expert. She was a military analysis, if you call it that. She says if the world goes into a nuclear war, the war would last 72 minutes, and the living would envy the dead. That's how bad it's going to be. And being that Russia's got more rockets than anything else, you don't think he's going to use them? Because he doesn't want to lose. This is a very hard-headed, stiff-minded, proud, And those are the same qualities that Napoleon had. When you see somebody short in power, watch out. Napoleon syndrome. You know, he was very stubborn. He didn't want to stop the wars. He basically attacked the whole of Europe. Very proud. And he didn't want to lose. Those are the same, you can call it quality, you can call it symptoms. But Napoleon was like that, hard-headed. So Putin is going along the same path. And he's got the numbers. Ukraine does not have the numbers. Ukraine's got a lot of drones and the help from the United States, but they don't have the numbers. They don't have hundreds of thousands of troops. Russia can just throw in another 100,000, another 200,000. He doesn't care if they're getting killed, which they are. But Russia does not want to lose. So now we don't need a warrior to crank it up and go to the next step. We need a negotiator to bring it down, to bring down the tension, to have a conversation with the opposite side and make a deal. And the only person I see now and in the far future is Trump. If you don't like Trump for anything else, like him for that, because you know he can negotiate. He can negotiate. He is used to dealing with people clinging on, hanging on to their agenda. So we need him to talk to Putin. And he's probably going to tell him, okay, all these towns in the east of Ukraine, that everybody there is Russian and speaks Russian, because I understand the Ukrainian language is similar, but it's not Russian. It's a Slavic language, but it's not Russian. Like Polish is also Slavic, but it's not Russian. So he could say, okay, all these towns, the few towns at the edge of the border there, okay, we're gonna give you that for Russia. You gotta give Putin a little bone, you know. Give him that and forget about the rest of Ukraine. Ukraine, and in turn, Ukraine is not gonna belong to the United Nations, because basically that's how the whole thing started. If you ever watch, and I'm sure you have, you watch the old programs of Star Trek, that the Klingons wanted a neutral zone. They didn't want the Federation of Planets right there on the border of the Klingon Empire. Well, this is the same thing with Russia. Same thing. Russia does not want the United Nations. It's like saying this street, he doesn't want them on the other side of the street there. He said, that's the United Nations, this is Russia. It's uncomfortable for him. So then, so I think that will solve the problem in Russia real easy. Because Russia does not want to be beaten, but they want an honorable withdrawal. They want to be able to say, okay, we got something, we're going to stop. Okay. And then with Israel, that's a whole different matter. With Israel, it's a whole different ball game, because there you don't have logic. You have religion. And religion means trouble. You believe that this is your land, my land, I don't care what you say, this is my land. Well, that's what the Palestinians are saying. And then the Jewish people are saying, no, this was given to me by God. Ta-da-dan, ta-da-dan. and they're fighting, two dogs fighting over one bone. That's gonna be a little difficult to solve. But who knows? Maybe Trump could do it. That's gonna be difficult. If he can do that, boy, he's gonna be super famous for in history. um, well, an update on the Macanudo is still biting a little bit. It's it's a little bitter. That's what I mean. It's a little bitter, and the aroma is okay. It's still there. It's not the best Macanudo, that's for sure. So the Inspirado, I'm not buying any more of these. I'm gonna get one that's a little darker. Might give me a better flavor. And going back to the subject of to foresee the future, you have to understand the past, and that's the way I see it. Um, Putin wants to put together the Russian Empire again. You know, he's going to want Lithuania and the Balkans and that area that used to belong to Russia, especially Ukraine. Ukraine's got a lot of minerals. Got I think it has oil also. Got a lot of natural gas, and it's one of the richest farmland in Europe. It's 1,000 miles wide, and in most of that land it's just farmland. So it's a lot of food there to be grown. He wants it back. He doesn't want to have to buy the food. He wants to keep it. That's why he wants that there. But mainly because the United States kept saying, "Oh, why don't you join the United Nations?" And you join the United Nations, and Europe is also inviting them and da da da. Don't worry about the Russians. We'll take care of you. We'll help you. Well, the war's over a year now, and they're still at it. What is it? A year and a half now. And the Russians are not going to surrender, and they're not going to lose. They're going to have to negotiate. And I think that's what Trump is perfect for that. That's when he come in. He will come in and try to solve the problem as quick as he can. I don't know if he said that he could do it in a day. I don't know about a day. It's going to take a few weeks to. But we need to get out of there. Basically, we're pouring money, and the only people making money there are the weapons manufacturers, and the banks. All that money, it's a loan. That's not a gift. It's a loan that they wanna get paid back with interest. That's what banks do. And basically that's why this war was pushed to make money, and that's not right. It's a lot of people have been dead on both sides. A lot of women, a lot of men, kids, for somebody to make money. So that has to end as soon as Trump goes in as a president, because he's going to be president. A lot of people are not going to like it, but they have to admit that this is not about personalities. This is not about liking. It's about getting something solved. Remember Patton? George C. Patton. Okay, George was loudmouth, foul-mouthed, and he wasn't a diplomat. He was a warrior. He got the job done. Patton was one of the best generals in the Second World War. A lot of women, especially, didn't like him because of the way he talked. But you don't have to go by how he says things. You have to see what he does. He kicked the Germans back to Germany, and then he wanted to kick the Russians back to Russia. He was a doer. He wasn't a diplomat. And basically, Trump is the same. Trump is not a diplomat, and he's not a warrior. He is a negotiator. He'll negotiate to the point that both sides are going to be satisfied with what they're getting. Because right now, both of them are getting kicked in the ass. They're not really winning. They're just stuck there. Going back, going forth, to gain a couple of miles, there's hundreds of people dying every day. So that war is useless. The thing is that the people in power now have to admit that Russia is not going to back down. But they will sit down for talks and negotiations with somebody that knows how. And the a-hole that we have in the White House, he's being handled by somebody else. He's being manipulated. And like I said before, when it comes to Israel and the Palestinians going back and forth, I saw a video. It's called Palestine, I believe. It was a video. It was a movie made in the late 20s, I believe, after the First World War. And the Palestinians there, the Arabs, I'm not going to call them Palestinians because Palestine is not really a country. The Arabs were doing pretty well. They had shops, they had fishing fleets, they had merchandise coming back and forth in ships. They had a good life, and there were Jews living there in peace. There was no problem. But as soon as the Jews came from Europe and they declared a Jewish country, and they don't want Arabs in there because also a different religion, but also because they're not European Jews. Well, all the Jews are from Europe. The Jews that were there back in the day, those people just moved to a better area. I don't know how that's going to get solved because there's a lot of religion involved and a lot of hatred. When somebody kills your father, you think you're going to sit down and talk to them and negotiate? That's a very difficult, difficult problem to solve. To be honest, I don't know if Trump could do that. Because to negotiate, you have to be dealing with reasonable people. And these people are not reasonable. They have their own agenda. It's not really an agenda. They just have their own mindset. And they're just not going to change. They're not going to change. They got their ways of doing things, and that's the way they've been doing it for centuries. So there, the only solution is somebody has to lose. Hamas is getting their ass kicked, and the Jews don't want to stop now because they're about to finish the job, maybe in another 6 months. I feel sorry for those people because everywhere they go, they're getting bombed. There's an explosion here, an explosion there, and it's a difficult situation, very difficult. But to get rid of Hamas, the Israelis are not going to stop. Not when they're on the brink of wiping them out. That's what they want to do. They don't want anybody to survive from that. And that's going to be another, it's going to be vengeance till the end of the world. There's not going to be any peace. It's going to be tension. It's going to be a peaceful tension situation. So, I don't know what Trump could do there. He's gonna try his best, but so yeah, this thing's still better. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it, because what for? Burning my tongue. So let's see how this year's gonna go. There's another issue coming up now, that they want to raise taxes on gas to $2. Right now we're paying 135 because the governor, another asshole in government, Newsom, he blew over budget $64 billion in debt. Billion. Now he wants to make it up before he leaves office in 2 years, because they want to say, oh, he left a surplus. Yeah, with our money. That's what they did for, what's his name, for Brown. Before he left, they taxes again, so he can leave $13 billion as a surplus. And they're going to say, oh, when he left the state, he left money, the state wasn't bankrupt. Well, that's what Newsom wants to do. He wants to liquidate that debt so he can say that he has a surplus. It's a bunch of bullshit. They splendor, they waste money on crap, socialist shit, and then we're in trouble. We get shafted. We gotta pay for it. And I believe they're gonna start a pilot program to charge 35 cents per mile that you drive. So they're asking the automotive companies, manufacturer, to insert some sort of a device that measures the mileage and registers with some department via wireless, via cell phone, I guess, that tells them at the end of the year you owe so much because you drove so many miles. I don't know what they're going to do with the existing vehicles, because another thing is that the electric cars are not buying gas because they're electric, and now there's less tax money coming in from the gas. So now they want to raise it on both ends. You pay more for driving and you pay more for fuel. So we're looking at $7 a gallon in the state, a minimum. I'm telling you, I'm really seriously thinking of leaving to a better and peaceful state. I got a fixed income and I cannot be spending more and more and more on the same thing. A burrito used to cost you $6, $5.50. It's $11.50 now. A burger in McDonald's, 11 something. A lot of people are not even buying food anymore. You look at those drive-through fast food places, and they're empty. Maybe one or two cars. They're not gonna survive. And McDonald's talking about leaving California. I think they should teach these fuckers a lesson. Starbucks have closed a bunch of stores because the government here is demanding now that you have to pay a burger guy just for flipping burgers, and $20 an hour. $20 an hour with no education. Those jobs are not meant to support a family. They're supposed to be part-time and students' jobs. Summer jobs. Not to support a family, pay for a vehicle, pay for the insurance, pay for a mortgage. No, they never were supposed to be meant for that. It's ridiculous. You want to make more money? You better educate yourself and do something better. Don't think because you're sweeping a floor, you deserve $40 an hour. You have a family, you better tie a nut, because you're not supposed to be paying for a family and everything else on being a floor sweeper. this whole place is upside down, completely upside down. The only thing left is the weather, and pretty soon we're gonna get charged for that too. Except the only thing we're not paying is for the air we breathe. You watch, they'll come up with something. All right, guys, I'm gonna let you go. This is okay. It's a nice Jeep. I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. That's about it. All right, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.